You were never broken, just tuned to an old frequency. You know, we were taught how to succeed, how to strive, how to improve ourselves. But no one ever sat us down and gently said, "You don't need to become someone else to be free." No one told us that maybe, just maybe, we're not damaged. We're just vibrating in a pattern that no longer fits. See, I used to think I needed to work harder to deserve peace, to become more spiritual, more healed, more enlightened, whatever that meant. I thought the key to change was doing something different. But that's not how real transformation begins. It begins when you pause, when the noise dies down just enough for you to finally hear the quiet truth underneath it all. You are not broken. You're just still moving with the momentum of a self that was built in pain. And that self was doing the best it could. Maybe it showed up during the chaos of your childhood. Maybe it formed the moment your heart was first betrayed. Maybe it got stronger every time you were told to be realistic. Lower your voice, or not expect too much. That version of you, it wasn't wrong. It was protective, a shell, like armor forged in fire, wrapped around your heart, convincing you that playing small was safer than being seen. But here's the thing, that old identity, it's not required anymore. It served its time, it got you here, but now, it's keeping you from going any further. Because real change doesn't happen when you punish yourself into submission. It happens when you stop arguing with what you feel. When you witness yourself honestly, tenderly, without judgment. That's when your energy starts to shift. Not because you became better, but because you became coherent. And coherence, well, it's not something you chase. It's what returns when you stop resisting who you already are. The version of you who is free doesn't need more self-help books, or morning routines, or perfectly balanced chakras. They need space. Space to emerge. Space to breathe. But that can only happen when you stop clinging to the old signal, the old story. I want you to think of it like this. Imagine you're standing in a room filled with radios. Each one is tuned to a different frequency, playing a different life. The version of you that feels anxious, small, disconnected, that's one frequency. The version of you that walks in peace, that feels joy without reason, that trusts without needing proof, that's another. And you don't have to earn your way to that frequency. You just have to tune in. You just have to remember that you're the one holding the dial. But if you keep spinning the knob while doubting your worth, if you keep looking outside for confirmation that it's safe to change, you'll stay locked in the station of the old self, forever buffering. That's why the shift doesn't come through effort. It comes through permission, through the stillness that says, I don't need to become more. I just need to stop rehearsing who I'm not. And here's the most liberating part of all. You don't have to fix your life for your energy to change. But once your energy changes, your life will begin to reorganize around it. Not overnight, not always dramatically, but quietly, consistently, undeniably. You'll breathe a little deeper without meaning to. You'll speak a little softer, walk a little taller. People around you might say, something's different about you. And they won't be able to name it, but they'll feel it. Because it's not in what you say, it's in what you no longer fight against. You've stopped trying to escape yourself and started being with yourself. That's coherence. That's transformation. Not from force, but from remembrance. So if you're tired, not just physically tired, but soul tired from trying to fix something that was never broken in the first place, then take this as your sign. Not to do more, but to become still, to allow a different frequency to speak through you. You don't need to chase the healed version of you. They're already here, already humming beneath the noise. All they've been waiting for is your permission to return. 1. You don't create what you want. You create what you are. There's a quiet illusion many of us live under, and I lived there. 2. It's the belief that wanting something badly enough will bring it into your life. That writing it down, Repeating it, dreaming about it, will somehow make the universe deliver it to your doorstep. But the truth is, the universe doesn't speak in language. It speaks in vibration. It listens not to your words, but to the frequency pulsing through your nervous system each day. I remember a time in my life when I was surrounded by vision boards, beautiful, bright images of the life I thought I needed: freedom, love, abundance. I lit candles. I spoke affirmations. I journaled every morning. But deep inside, I was afraid. I was uncertain. I doubted my worth. And so, despite all my conscious effort, nothing changed. Why? Because I wasn't aligned with what I asked for. I wasn't creating from desire. I was creating from fear. You see, what you want and what you embody are two entirely different energies. One speaks of lack. I don't have it yet. The other speaks of truth. This is who I already am. The quantum field doesn't respond to longing. It responds to coherence. It mirrors back your state, not your scripts. You can say, "I want peace," 1,000 times. But if your body is still vibrating with anxiety, still bracing for impact every morning, still carrying the tightness of old wounds in your chest, the field hears that. The universe doesn't reject you. It just reflects you. It's not punishment. It's precision. And once I understood that, something softened in me. I stopped trying to convince the universe that I was ready. I started showing up as if I already was. And in that subtle shift from convincing to becoming everything, began to rearrange. Because the truth is, energy never lies. You might be able to mask your emotions from other people, but not from the field. Not from the current that runs deeper than thought. The current that responds to who you actually are, not who you wish you were. And it's okay. It's okay if you're still holding fear. It's okay if your hands still tremble when you reach for more. It doesn't mean you're failing. It just means there's more love to give yourself, more room to soften, to open, to align not through effort, but through presence, because presence is the gateway to true resonance. And resonance isn't something you fake until it works. It's something you feel until it becomes you. When you carry the energy of lack, life responds with more lack. Not because it's cruel, because it's honest. And when you carry the energy of trust, even before a single thing changes on the outside, you'll start to feel a lightness on the inside. That's how you know you've tuned into something real. This work isn't about being positive all the time. It's about being honest with your inner weather and choosing to breathe anyway. Choosing to notice the storm without becoming the storm. Because the storm will pass. What remains is the vibration you return to when you stop trying. So ask yourself, not from your mind, but from your body, what am I really sending out each day? What's the emotional signal I'm carrying into every room? Every conversation, every decision. That's the transmission the universe responds to. And if it's a signal of fear, then don't try to override it with louder affirmations. Hold it, witness it, love it. That gentle awareness alone begins to change the frequency, because awareness is alchemy. When you stop resisting what you feel, you stop amplifying it. And when you stop amplifying it, the field stops echoing it back to you. From that space, you're no longer just someone who wants peace, love, joy. You're someone who's beginning to live as it. And that, right there, that's when creation begins. 2. The old self doesn't need to be destroyed. It only needs to be released. There's a quiet kind of violence we sometimes carry into our spiritual path. This belief that in order to grow, we must crush what came before, burn it down, erase it, denude it. But real transformation doesn't ask for war. It asks for release. See, the version of you that you're trying to outrun the fearful one, the guarded one, the one that hesitates to trust, that version didn't show up to sabotage your life. It showed up to save it. It was your response to a world that didn't always feel safe. It was born in moments when you were silenced, dismissed, overlooked. It came alive the day you felt unworthy of love and needed a way to survive without it. And so, that old self did what it could. It built walls where you needed boundaries. It made you small so you could avoid being hurt. It played it safe when your spirit longed to take risks. You see, the ego isn't evil. It's protective. It's just tired. And more than that, it's outdated. Like an old coat you wore through a long winter. It kept you warm. It got you through the cold. But now, the season has changed. And you're still walking around in something that doesn't fit anymore. You don't need to destroy it. You don't need to scream at it or cast it out like a villain. You just need to lay it down. With grace. With gratitude. Like taking off that heavy coat and saying, "Thank you. You kept me safe. But I don't need you to carry me anymore." This is the part most people miss. Healing isn't about bulldozing through your old self with willpower. It's about gently unhooking from it. With love. Because the moment you stop fighting it, you stop feeding it. The moment you stop identifying with it, you begin to witness it. And the moment you witness something without resistance, it starts to dissolve. That's the beauty of presence. It's the softest light, but it melts through even the deepest armor. So, if the voice of your old self still shows up, the one that says you're not ready or not enough, don't argue with it. Just listen. With compassion, like an old friend who's repeating a story they've told 1,000 times. You no longer need to believe it. You just need to stop mistaking it for who you are. Because underneath that voice is stillness. And in that stillness, your true self lives. You were never meant to be ruled by your defense mechanisms. They served a moment, not a lifetime. And now, your body, your energy, your consciousness, they're all asking for a different rhythm. One that doesn't run on fear, one that doesn't cling to survival when your soul is craving expansion. But for that rhythm to emerge, there has to be space. And space only comes when you let go. Not with a fight, not with a plan, but with permission. Permission to be soft. Permission to say, "I don't have to keep carrying this story anymore." Permission to be someone new, because you're not betraying your past. You're honoring the growth that came from it. I want you to know this. Nothing you've lived through was wasted. Nothing you've had to become was wrong. It was part of the path that brought you to this edge. But the edge is not the end. It's the beginning of what comes next. And the only thing you need to cross it is presence. So the next time that old self shows up, don't push it away. Sit with it. Thank it. And when you're ready, take off the coat. Stand in the sunlight and walk forward unburdened. Because you're not destroying who you were. You're just remembering who you've always been. 3. Your body is a signal tower more powerful than your words. There's something I want you to consider. Something most of us were never taught. Your body speaks louder than your mouth ever will. We grow up believing it's our words, or déclaration, our intentions that shape reality. And yes, words have power. Intention matters. But beneath all of that, there's something even stronger. Something constantly broadcasting who you are, whether you realize it or not. It's your energy, and your body is its loudest speaker. Think of your body like an antenna, always sending out a signal into the quantum field. And the strongest transmitter, it's not your brain, it's your heart. Science has already shown us this. The electromagnetic field produced by your heart is about 60 times more powerful than that of your brain. 60 times. That means the feelings you carry in your chest, gratitude, love, fear, worry, they're not just emotions. They're frequencies. They're messages. Messages that ripple into the field around you, shaping the way life responds. So when you move through your day carrying stress, even if you're smiling on the outside, the field hears stress. When you walk around trying to manifest abundance, but your body is vibrating in anxiety, The field hears lack. It's not judging you. It's just responding honestly. That's why when you live in gratitude not as a trick, but as a state, life starts to feel softer. Doors open. People shift. The air itself begins to feel different. Not because you're doing something special, but because you're finally being who you truly are, aligned, open, coherent. You don't have to beg the universe for love, or peace, or clarity. You become the kind of presence that those things naturally come to, like bees to a flower, like water finding its own level. You become magnetic not from effort, but from congruence. There was a time in my life when I was saying all the right things. I was reading the books, reciting the affirmations, checking all the boxes, but nothing was shifting. And I remember sitting in silence one morning, hand over heart, and realizing my body was still bracing for life, like it was waiting for something to go wrong, like it didn't believe the peace I was asking for. That moment changed everything, because I realized I wasn't feeling what I was saying. And if I wasn't feeling it, I wasn't sending it. My body was still tuned to fear. So I started smaller, not with affirmations, not with rituals, but with breath. With placing my hand on my chest and simply saying, "I'm safe now." You can soften. Little by little, I began to feel the signal shift, not all at once, but gently, like thawing after a long winter. And when the body begins to trust, when your heart begins to beat in rhythm with trust instead of tension, everything around you realigns. People feel you differently. Opportunities meet you in places they used to miss you. Synchronicities become so frequent, you stop calling them coincidences, because they're not coincidences. They're reflections of your frequency. So if you've been trying to force reality to change, if you've been using all the right tools but feeling all the wrong things, maybe it's time to come back to the heart, to let it lead, to live in a way where gratitude isn't a strategy, but a sanctuary, where compassion isn't something you practice, it's something you are. Not because you're perfect, but because you've stopped pretending you're separate from what you want. You're not. You're woven into the very fabric of this universe, and your heartbeat is one of its instruments. So play it softly, play it truthfully, and watch what begins to gather around your song. 4. Small shifts are quantum transformations. Sometimes we wait for the big things, the breakthrough, the miracle, the sudden sign that everything is about to change. We hold our breath, hoping the universe will deliver some grand gesture, something loud and unmistakable. But the real shifts, they're quiet, so quiet. Most people miss them. They don't show up with fireworks. They show up in moments so subtle, they almost look like nothing. Like the moment you pause before reacting in anger and choose to breathe instead. Like the moment you walk a different path home, just because something inside nudged you gently. Like the moment you speak up in a room where you always stayed small, even if your voice shakes. These are not just behavioral tweaks. These are quantum decisions, choices that don't just change the moment, they change your timeline. You see, in the quantum world, reality isn't linear. It's a field of infinite potentials, all existing simultaneously. Every time you choose differently, truly choose from a different frequency, you're shifting yourself into a different version of your life. And the universe, it hears that. It hears the quiet courage. It hears the subtle rebellion against your old self. It hears you whispering to life, "I'm ready for something new." We're conditioned to believe change has to be hard, dramatic, exhausting. But often, the most profound transformations come disguised as simplicity. You wake up one morning and choose to make your bed. You drink your water slowly. With presence, you stop apologizing for needing rest. None of these things scream awakening, but they are awakening. They are proof that you're no longer on autopilot, that you're no longer rehearsing the same identity that kept you stuck. And when your choices change, your energy shifts. And when your energy shifts, your trajectory shifts. It's like sailing at sea. Change your course by 1 degree. And in the beginning, the difference is barely noticeable. But give it time, and you'll end up in an entirely different continent. Not because you rushed, but because you were willing to turn. That's how quantum transformation works. It doesn't demand a dramatic breakdown. It doesn't wait for you to hit rock bottom. It meets you right where you are, in the tiniest willingness to choose again. I remember the first time I interrupted one of my own patterns. It was such a small thing. I was about to say, "I'm fine," when I wasn't. But this time, I stopped. I took a breath, and I said, quietly, "I'm actually not okay today." It was just a sentence, but something in the air changed. Something in me changed. Because for the first time, I chose honesty over habit, presence over performance. And that one sentence led to a new kind of conversation, which led to a new kind of support, which led to a new kind of self. It's always like this. Tiny shifts, when done in truth, ripple outward in ways you can't predict. They call in people you wouldn't have met otherwise. They open doors that didn't exist on your previous frequency. They send a message to the field, "I'm no longer available for who I used to be." And the field listens. So if you're waiting for the big moment, don't. Trust the small ones. They're easier to miss. Yes, but they're also easier to carry, easier to integrate, easier to build a life upon. The old self was all about extremes. Push harder, prove more, fix everything. But the new self, it's gentle. It listens. It moves from alignment, not pressure. And it knows something the old self didn't. That real change doesn't happen when everything shifts. It happens the moment you do even a little. So don't underestimate your quiet choices. Don't dismiss your subtle yeses. Your whispered no's. They are sacred. They are significant. They are the building blocks of a future your old self could never access. Because the universe doesn't respond to the size of your actions. It responds to the purity of your frequency. And every time you choose from love instead of fear, from trust instead of control, you become that frequency. You become the match for a life that once felt out of reach. Not by chasing it, but by becoming the version of you who already lives there. 5. You are not your emotions. You are the one who observes them. There's a moment, and maybe you felt it, when a wave of emotion comes crashing in, and for just a second, you forget who you are. You become the anger. You become the fear. You become the sadness so completely. It colors everything. It speaks through your voice. It tightens your breath. It blinds your clarity. And it feels so real, doesn't it? Because emotions are convincing. They rise with the power of memory, of meaning, of lived experience. They don't ask permission. They just arrive, uninvited, unannounced, unfiltered. But here's something that changed my life once I truly saw it. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds it. You are not your sadness. You are the space in which sadness moves. And the moment, the sacred, quiet moment, you shift from being in the emotion to watching it. Everything begins to soften. Because you've stepped out of the old frequency. You've stepped out of the trance. Most people never learn this. They live entire lives caught inside emotional weather systems, chasing joy, running from fear, trying to fix, control, or numb whatever rises. But you're not meant to suppress what you feel, and you're not meant to drown in it either. You're meant to witness it, to let the emotion rise like a wave. And instead of fighting it or clinging to it, you just say, "I see you." You can pass, because that's what emotions do, they pass. When you stop feeding them with resistance, when you stop attaching a story to every feeling, they begin to melt. I remember the first time I sat still with an old grief, not to fix it, not to heal it, just to witness it. It wasn't comfortable. It felt like I was standing at the edge of something bottomless. But I breathed, and I let it move. I didn't try to name it, didn't try to assign it to a memory or label it with logic. I just stayed present. And something incredible happened. It faded, not because I conquered it, but because I stopped becoming it. This is the alchemy of awareness. When you observe an emotion without becoming it, you no longer vibrate at its frequency. And if you're no longer vibrating at that frequency, you're no longer attracting the timelines that match it. So many people try to change their outer world while still carrying the emotional weight of their past. But as long as you're emotionally anchored to that old self, you'll keep creating from that same space. It's not punishment, it's resonance. But the moment you witness your anger without justifying it, the moment you feel your fear without obeying it, you've already changed frequencies. You've exited the loop, because you're no longer the one being pushed around by the emotion. You're the one holding space for it, and that changes everything. You begin to see the emotion as a visitor, not a definition of who you are. A wave might crash, but it doesn't change the nature of the ocean. You're still whole, still steady, still here. And from that stillness, a new reality begins to form. One where your inner state is no longer dictated by the echoes of your past, but guided by the awareness of this moment. So the next time something rises, and don't push it away, don't judge it, don't chase it with logic, or bury it with shame. Just pause, notice it, and speak softly to yourself. This is not who I am. This is something I'm witnessing, and that alone is freedom. That's how you return to the sky. That's how you stop living as the weather. And once you live from the sky, from that vast, calm awareness, you realize something beautiful. You were never broken. You were just momentarily clouded. Now the sky is clearing. And what's waiting on the other side is you. The real you, not the version shaped by emotions, but the one who can hold them all with grace, with space, with peace. 6. Alignment doesn't come from effort, it comes from remembering. Somewhere along the way, we were taught that transformation is something you earn, that healing is a task, that awakening is a mountain you climb, inch by inch, through sheer will. And I understand why we believe that. Because for so long, everything we valued success, worth, even love felt tied to effort. Work harder, try more, push through. But when it comes to who you truly are, there is nothing to push, nothing to build, nothing to force. Because your essence isn't a future version of you that you need to create. It's the version of you that existed before the world got loud, before fear told you who you had to be, before expectation wrapped around your chest and taught you to shrink, before pain wrote its name into your nervous system. You don't need to become someone else. You only need to return to the one you've always been. And return not with urgency, not with pressure, but like someone walking slowly back home after a long journey. You see, the real you, the aligned you, was never truly gone. It's just been waiting, beneath the noise, beneath the roles, beneath the endless striving to be enough. Alignment doesn't ask you to fix yourself. It simply asks you to stop forgetting. And the moment you do, the moment you stop chasing some ideal version of yourself, something inside begins to soften. You begin to breathe differently, not because your problems vanish, but because you're no longer living from them. You start living from presence, not performance. There's a kind of beauty that returns when we stop trying so hard to change. When we remember that the oak tree doesn't force itself to grow, it simply allows, and you, just like that tree, are not broken. You are simply unfolding, slowly, naturally, in your own rhythm, and that unfolding doesn't come from new habits or more discipline. It comes from being still long enough to hear who you are underneath the noise. Who were you before life told you to be afraid? Before you were praised for pleasing and punished for honesty? Before your worth was tied to achievement, to control, to perfection? The answer isn't in the next self-help book. It's not in another 30-day program. It's in your remembering. In the quiet space where you take a breath and realize, I don't have to become more. I just have to come back. Back to softness. Back to presence. Back to the version of you that trusts life. Because life is what you're made of. I know, it's tempting to keep searching, to keep stacking new beliefs on top of old ones, hoping the weight of it all will finally make you feel whole. But wholeness isn't something you build. It's what remains when everything false falls away. And what falls away was never you to begin with. So maybe the work isn't doing more. Maybe it's the sacred work of unbecoming. Unbecoming the fear. Unbecoming the pressure. Unbecoming the identity that said you had to earn your right to exist. And from there, from that uncluttered place, you begin to resonate again. Not because you figured it out, but because you stopped running. This is what alignment really means. Not striving to get somewhere, but allowing yourself to stand where you already are, without guilt, without judgment, without apology. And it's from that place, that unshakable stillness, that everything else begins to rearrange. You don't manifest from effort. You manifest from coherence. And coherence is your natural state, when you remember who you were before fear rewrote your story. So if you're tired of trying to be someone, tired of trying to ascend or heal or prove, then maybe this is your invitation. Not to rise higher, but to come home. Because your truest self isn't something far away. It's right here, in this breath, in this silence, in this moment of remembrance. And the moment you return, life meets you there. Not with applause, not with fireworks, but with a soft knowing that says, yes, this is who you are. And it's enough. 7. You're not stuck because of fate. You're stuck because of vibrational habit. So many of us carry this quiet ache, this belief that we are somehow stuck in the life we didn't choose. As if we missed some exit years ago, and now we're doomed to live out the wrong script. We tell ourselves stories like, it's just the way I am. It's too late to change. Maybe it's not meant for me. But I want to offer you something simpler and far more compassionate. You are not stuck because of destiny. You are stuck because your nervous system got used to a certain rhythm, a familiar frequency. One you didn't consciously choose, but you kept practicing. Again and again. It's like a river that's flowed in the same direction for decades. Not because the water wants to go that way, but because the earth underneath was carved that way long ago. Your thoughts, your reactions, your emotional responses, they've been flowing through grooves created by years of repetition. And that old self, the one who always expects rejection or failure or disappointment, isn't your true self. It's just a set of practiced reactions. It's muscle memory. It's momentum. You don't need to fight it. You don't need to shame it. You simply need to stop mistaking it for you. Because the moment you do, the moment you stop identifying with it, you reclaim your power. And power doesn't mean force. It means choice. The ability to choose a different thought, to interrupt the loop, to gently turn the river not all at once, but with 1,000 small shifts in direction. I know what it's like to feel like nothing will ever change. To wake up each day and feel like you're repeating yesterday even when you swore you wouldn't. To feel trapped inside the same emotional climate, watching yourself play out the same roles, the same reactions. And I also know the moment that began to change for me. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some spiritual high. It was this quiet realization. I don't have to believe this thought just because it showed up. I don't have to act on this feeling just because it's familiar. That was the beginning of freedom. You see, the body doesn't know the difference between what's true and what's habitual. It only knows what it's rehearsed. So if you've been rehearsing anxiety, self-doubt, guilt, it's no wonder they feel like home. But feeling like home doesn't mean they're meant for you. It just means your nervous system has gotten used to carrying them. Like wearing a jacket that's too tight, but so familiar you don't even notice it anymore. But the moment you notice, truly notice, You begin to loosen its grip, not by ripping it off, but by realizing this doesn't fit me anymore. That awareness is everything. Because once you stop calling the old self me, you stop fooling it. You stop feeding the loops. And the loops without your attention begin to unravel. This is the beauty of disidentification. You don't need to fix the old patterns. You just need to stop sitting in their seat. Let them pass. Let them echo, if they must, but don't echo back. You're not here to repeat your history. You're here to remember your choice. And every time you pause, every time you breathe instead of react, every time you whisper, "That's not who I am anymore," you are rerouting the river. It won't always feel magical. Often, it will feel awkward, even empty, because you're no longer feeding the emotional addictions your body's used to. But emptiness isn't failure. It's the space where the new gets to land. So if you feel like you're stuck not in your life, but in yourself, please know it's not permanent. It's just a well-worn groove. And grooves can change. Rivers can be redirected. Frequencies can be tuned. And you are not a prisoner of your past vibrations. You are the presence that sees them. You are the stillness beneath the habit. And that stillness is where freedom begins. 8. What you long for already exists in the quantum field. There's something profoundly comforting about understanding this. The life you're longing for isn't far away. It's not hidden behind more discipline. It's not locked in some distant version of the future where you've finally gotten everything right. It already exists, right now, not in time, but in frequency. This is the quiet beauty of the quantum field. It doesn't operate on linear time. It's not waiting for you to achieve or accumulate. It responds always to what you're being, not what you're chasing. And what you're being is a frequency. So when you say, "I want peace," the universe doesn't ask how badly it asks. Are you in tune with peace? Is your nervous system soft enough to receive it? Is your heart open enough to recognize it? Because you don't attract what you want. You attract what you match. And I know, sometimes that sounds like a spiritual cliche, but I don't mean it as a slogan. I mean it as physics. Everything is vibration. Every thought, every emotion, every belief, they're all signals. And the field, that unseen web of energy surrounding you, is constantly reconfiguring itself to reflect your signal back to you. Not to reward you, not to test you, but to mirror you. So the question isn't, when will what I want arrive? The real question is, can I align with the version of me who already lives it? Because they exist. Not in the clouds, not in fantasy, but in a timeline that's already pulsing here, now in the field. And the bridge to that timeline isn't effort, it's resonance. That version of you, the one who feels safe in their body, who wakes up with purpose, who moves through the world without shrinking or proving they're not an upgrade. They're a return. They're who you are when you stop pretending, when you stop performing, when you stop chasing perfection and start living in truth. Alignment doesn't require flawlessness. It requires honesty. And honesty means showing up with your full self, even the shaky parts, even the vulnerable parts, even the parts that don't know yet how to be okay. Because the field doesn't respond to masks, it responds to coherence. And coherence doesn't come when you're finally enlightened, it comes when you're finally real. There's no frequency more magnetic than authenticity, no vibration more powerful than truth felt in the body. I remember when I finally stopped trying to manifest the life I thought I needed. I stopped trying to impress the universe with perfect morning routines and high-vibe affirmations. And instead, I sat in stillness. I breathed. I said, "Here I am, raw, unsure, honest. Let me meet myself here." And slowly, reality started to shift. Not because I earned it, but because I stopped resisting it. Because when you stop trying to deserve your desires, you realize they were never rewards. They were reflections, waiting for you to recognize yourself in them. This is how it works. Not through force, but through frequency. Not through perfection, but through presence. So if you've been working hard to get there, maybe the invitation is not to do more, but to tune deeper. To come back into harmony with what already is. Because what you're longing for isn't waiting on the other side of some cosmic finish line. It's right here. Just tuned to a signal you haven't fully allowed yourself to match. And when you do, when you drop the striving and let yourself rest, in resonance, you'll feel something shift. Not always dramatically. Sometimes just a breath that feels different. A moment that doesn't rush. A conversation that opens. A path that appears where there was none before. And you'll know not because life shouted, but because something inside whispered, "I'm home." You've entered a frequency where the future you once dreamed of feels natural, feels familiar, feels like you, not because you created it, but because you finally stopped hiding from the part of you that already knew how to live it. 9. The energy you carry is your invitation to the universe. There's something I hope you begin to feel, not just understand, but truly feel. You're not just living your life. You're transmitting it. Every moment, every breath, every step you take, every glance, every silence, it's all sending out a signal. And that signal is your invitation. You don't need to craft the perfect vision board. You don't need to say all the right affirmations. You don't need to raise your vibration like it's a performance. Because the truth is, you're already communicating with the field. Not with words, but with being. Your emotions are your language. Your posture is your message. Your frequency is your RSVP. The universe doesn't respond to what you wish for. It responds to what you are. And what you are isn't some lofty concept. It's how you move through your day when no one's watching. It's the energy behind your choices. It's the softness or tension in your breath. It's the trust or fear in your eyes when you greet the moment. You are always sending something, even in stillness, even in silence. The question is, what are you sending? What kind of invitation is your energy offering? Is it saying, "I'm ready to be seen"? Or "Please don't notice me"? Is it saying, "I trust what's unfolding"? Or "I'm bracing for disappointment"? Is it saying, "I'm open"? Or "I'm surviving"? And this isn't about judgment, not at all. This is about awareness. Because once you realize you've always been broadcasting a frequency, you stop asking, "Why isn't it coming?" And you start asking, "What am I inviting?" Because what you call in isn't based on what you want. It's based on what you make space for energetically. And space isn't created by effort. It's created by alignment. By walking as if you already belong to the life you desire. Note, pretending, not faking confidence, but allowing your body to remember what it feels like to be enough, to be safe, to be whole. It might feel unfamiliar at first, because if you've lived years carrying doubt, your shoulders have learned to curl inward. If you've survived heartbreak, your chest might tense before every vulnerable word. But healing doesn't mean those patterns vanish overnight. It means you become aware of them and choose something different. One breath at a time, you start to walk a little taller. Not because you have something to prove, but because you've stopped hiding from yourself. You start to speak with more clarity, not because you've memorized the right script, but because your inner world is no longer at war with your truth. And slowly, your entire being begins to whisper something new into the field. Not, "I want this," but, "I am this." And that message that's silent, embodied message is the most powerful invitation you will ever send. It tells the universe, "I am no longer waiting. I am no longer chasing. I am living from the version of me who is ready now." And when you live like that, when your energy is a quiet declaration of readiness, life begins to echo back in the most unexpected ways. You'll cross paths with people who feel like old friends. Opportunities will find you when you're not looking. Doors will open without you knocking. Not because of magic, but because of magnetism. because you stopped sending mixed signals, because you started walking as the you that already knows how to receive. So every day, ask yourself gently, what am I inviting right now? Not through what I say, but through the way I exist in this moment. Am I breathing like someone who trusts? Am I walking like someone who belongs? Am I resting like someone who is held? Because those questions, not how do I manifest more, but how do I live in resonance with what I desire, are the ones that change your field. And your field changes everything. Not through control, not through force, but through quiet, courageous being. So if you've been waiting for a sign that it's time, this is it. Not to try harder, but to transmit clearer, to send out the unshakable signal, I'm ready to live as who I really am. And once you do, the universe will know exactly how to respond. The timeline doesn't change because you beg the two. It changes because you align. And then one morning, you wake up and everything looks the same. The same sunlight filters through the window. The same dishes wait in the sink. The same to-do list. The same city. The same sky. But something is different. And it's not out there. It's in you. There's no fireworks. No trumpet sound. Just a quiet, steady presence deeper than anything you've felt before. A knowing that you are no longer chasing anything, no longer begging life to change. You've stopped asking for the new reality to arrive. And instead, you've become the version of yourself that's ready to live in it. That changes everything. Because once you embody the shift, not just think about it, not just talk about it, every action becomes a declaration. Every look you give, every breath you take, every word you choose becomes a transmission to the field. I am no longer broadcasting the old self. I have chosen myself, fully, finally, quietly, and the universe doesn't need a dramatic ceremony to respond. It doesn't need more proof from you. It only needs coherence. And in that moment, when your inner world and outer choices come into resonance, reality begins to shift. Not because you begged, but because you aligned. Not because you shouted into the void, but because you stopped whispering doubt into your own body. You stopped waiting for permission. You stopped hesitating at the edge of your becoming. And you stepped in. Sometimes, alignment feels like a thunderclap, but most often, it feels like stillness. Like a breath that goes all the way in, without tension. Like a walk that doesn't carry weight. Like silence that doesn't feel empty, but sacred. You won't always be able to explain what's changed, but you'll feel it in how gently you hold yourself now, in how much less you argue with life, in how easily you recognize what is no longer yours to carry. And from here, everything you do becomes proof of the shift. You'll make choices that your old self would never have made. You'll say no to what used to define you. You'll say yes to things that feel unfamiliar but deeply right. You'll stop performing healing and start living as someone who remembers they were never truly broken. This is the timeline you've always sensed, always glimpsed. But now, it's stabilizing, not in theory. In practice, you're not forcing it to arrive. You're tuning into the version of you who already walks in it. That version has always existed. In the quantum field, they've never been far, just vibrating at a different level, waiting for you to return. And the return doesn't require perfection. It requires truth. You don't have to get everything right. You just have to be real, to breathe deeper, to choose with intention, to remember moment by moment that who you are is already enough. So now, you move differently. Not because you've become someone new, but because you've stopped trying to be anyone else. And life, honest as it is, begins to respond. You may still have hard days. You may still forget. But something has shifted for good. You're not living from the wound anymore. You're living from the witness. You're not reacting to old programming. You're responding from presence. And that presence changes everything. Because the moment you stopped waiting, you stepped into the life that was always waiting for you. Not a fantasy, not a reward, but a frequency, a home, a self you've always known and are now ready to embody. So take a breath, feel it settle. You're not reaching anymore. You're receiving. You're not fixing. You're remembering. And this is the beginning of everything real.